So today we're going to talk a little bit about succession planning. These are some simple tips and tools for succession planning. It's a hot topic in the nonprofit world and the for-profit world, and we just want to understand, obviously this is not going to tell you how to do everything, but it should get the conversation started. First of all, succession planning is important for three major different areas of transitions in your organization. One might be a hostile turnover. Maybe you had to fire someone, let them go for many different reasons, and this transition is happening quicker than expected. It might be a friendly transition, so you know that you have some time and you're going to be able to work with someone who cares about your organization. That's a totally different conversation. And finally, it might be an unexpected transition. Maybe a health condition or a move or a relocation impacts one of your key staff or board members, and it means that the organization is going to have to change and bring in new leadership before you originally planned. So those are three common situations in which a succession plan is needed, and if you go ahead and start these conversations today, you'll be so much better prepared for these conversations in the future. So a little bit of information. You want to make sure that you have on hand all your key contacts. So if you have nothing else to do this week, and I'm sure that's not happening in your world, but make some time, sit down and say, who are key contacts? If I were to disappear tomorrow as your executive director, as your board chair, what do people need to know? It might be your key donors, it might be your vendors, it might be your community partners, it might be your volunteers or your employee list. Make sure that you have a spreadsheet of those things, information, or at least an information on where to access that file, so that whoever has to come in and try to fill your shoes can find that information easily. Filing is an individual process. People have their own ways of filing, and it's not always easy to follow. When I started working with an organization, everything was filed by vendor. Well, if I didn't know that Dobson was a pest control company, I would not have known how to find the pest control vendor. So I found that it was easier to create a cheat sheet and say, here are the different vendors by category, and this is the supplier for that need. So whether it be pest control, office maintenance, electrical, alarm systems, I put them in easy to know categories and then put the vendors under those so that anyone would know which file to pull in those situations. The next thing is critical administration documents. So that might be your contracts. It might be any documents that have to do with memorandum of understandings, anything like that. And make sure those are easily accessible. It might be landlord-tenant agreements. Anything that has to do with administration, just make sure that you have it in an accessible place. Sounds simple, but many of these things get filed with the original board members, and they take them home, they end up in those home offices, and they never get placed in your office. So definitely make sure you have those on file. The next thing, huge piece of this, is your fundraising piece. Do you have a donor software system? Is it easy to navigate? Is it updated? Do people have access to that? What conversations do you have in place with donors? Who are you currently cultivating, whether it be a business, an individual? What are those conversations looking like, and what follow-up needs to happen to make sure that you don't miss amazing opportunities? So definitely your fundraising and your grant tracking system. I've transitioned out of multiple organizations, and I can tell you for months after those transitions, I continue to receive calls, and most of them are about grant agreements. Like, hey, we had this grant, now they're asking for a report. So make sure that someone on board, on staff, understands what's required to comply with those grants and when those reports are due, so that they are equipped to do that after you leave. And then finally, some of the tools that you can use to get these things in place. Look at shared files such as Dropbox, Google Drive, whatever platform you want to use. Get those saved in there and make sure that you give access to more than one person. Make sure that you have a plan in place for hostile turnovers so that you can act quickly. Simple things such as transitioning from a key to a keypad allows you to not worry about security issues, changing locks out every time you have a transition. You can simply change out door codes. And simply having orientation days that you work with board members, staff, and volunteers so that they understand a little bit about what you're doing, and that would be considered cross-training. So just a few quick tips as you consider succession planning, and be sure to check out blogs, vlogs, and other resources that you'll see a link for at the bottom of this vlog.